Everything is just fine. All right, and that's how we kicking off the show. We 59 days into 2023, and many of us have already experienced death of a close family or friend, disappointing news, depression is trying to overtake us. But Mary J just told you, no matter what comes your way, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, everything is just fine. And for my church saints, basically, she's saying, it is well with my soul. Let me give you scripture. If you still don't understand, Romans 8:28 said, all things work together for the good. Lift up your head, all ye gates, and be ye lifted, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Listen, today, I need you to look at yourself in the mirror, no matter what is going on in your life. If you on this side of Zion, have breath in your body, you need to say, okay, everything's fine. Everything's not going my way. That's okay. I didn't get the job. That's okay. People are acting a fool. That's okay. But everything is just fine. Welcome to the Real Talk with Tanya White show. I am your host, Tanya White, and today we have a Real Talk featured guest pop-up show. Our team came up with a little unique idea, put it on social media, and say, hey, you want to be on the show for a 15-minute interview? We're going to do pop-up. And so we're not having one topic. We got three amazing guests talking about three different topics that they're subject matter experts in, and we are going to have a wonderful show. So share this show. Tell everybody, tune in to WLLV 1240, 101.9. And online, WLLBonline.com. Let me get to my announcements. Huge kudos. You know, we have been having tons of Black History events, especially in our school system. I've been to a few, but Friday I was invited to read at Crumbs Lane Elementary, and Principal Tanisha Franklin and her entire staff and student body. Let me tell you, from the time I walked in there to the time I left, I felt welcome, I felt wanted, and I felt appreciated for volunteering my time. They even gave us a little gift while we was waiting to read. They had some vintage hip hop playing and had refreshments. So even Principal Tanisha was making sure that we felt fine and engaging in conversation with us. So huge kudos to Principal Tanisha Franklin, the new and the first African-American principal of Crumbs Lane. I can't believe that in 2023, we still haven't first. But first African-American principal at Crumbs Lane Elementary. I had a wonderful time. It was awesome. And I read a book to the fifth grade class about our Vice President, Kamala Harris. It was amazing. So thank you once again. Tune in Tuesday at 11:30 for It's My Time Now. Host Tim Finley and my Aunt Jackie Floyd of Elder Serve. Listen, I'm hearing that show is awesome and just popular. And y'all know my Aunt Jackie. She just says what she wants to when she wants to say it. So tune in Thursday at 11:30 from 11:30 to 12 noon. Also today, tune into the Go Get It with Tanya White show at 12 noon on envisionedbroadcasting.com, ENVISIONED broadcasting.com. We will air our full 30-minute interview with Dr. Steve Perry. If you listened last week, we had about 15 minutes. We will air the entire full interview today as we're talking about the crisis in K through 12 education. And so if you enjoyed that 15 minutes last week, trust me, you're going to enjoy the full 30 minutes. If you need a great book on grief, my latest book, Prayers of the Righteous and Grieving Availeth Much, Balancing Your Spiritual Faith and Human Feelings During Death and Other Loss, is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, and Walmart.com. And so get that, share that, start a book club. Everybody will experience grief or has experienced grief, is experienced grief. And one thing the world doesn't teach us is how to cope, how to really balance our faith in human feelings. So that book is less than 100 pages. At the end, it has a journal. And so it gives you right from the scripture how Jesus dealt with his grief in the Garden of Gethsemane. And so we can take tips from Jesus, because if Jesus was all God's son and he balanced his faith and his human feelings, we can too. All right, we would love for you to be a guest on the show or even become a sponsor. And so if you want to be a guest on the show or become a sponsor, please contact us at 502-836-9760. And again, tune in today. Share this with about 100 of your social media friends. Tell them tune in right now to today's Real Talk with Tanya White show. We are having our Real Talk guest pop-up show. This is something a little different. And so today we have Dr. Melanie Battles. She will be discussing the value of culturally responsive teaching and the fear tactics surrounding critical race theory. I know if you are in tune with what's going on, especially in Florida, with the curriculum of African American history, the governor's trying to take that out. He's trying to do a whole lot, but the fear tactics surrounding critical race theory is something that's really that we should know about, and how our teachers, all teachers of all colors, and what is the value of culturally responsive teaching. She's going to come in and give us her insight, her professional intellect on this topic. Then we have Dr. Ashley Dean. We have two doctors in the house today. If you are a small business owner, or author, and you are trying to build your brand, she's going to give us 4 steps to creating a 6-figure career brand. Or if you want to land your dream job with 6 figures, she's going to give us insight on how to do that. It's more than having the credentials, having the schooling, having the expertise. She's going to give us insights on the steps that you need to create not only a 6-figure brand, but if you want to land a job with 6 figures. She's going to give us the secrets to do that. And then to close the show, Apostle Michelle Allen is going to tell us how to recover and come up swinging after trauma. We all experience trauma, and she's going to tell us you can recover and come up swinging after trauma. Hello to my Facebook Live friends, Harry Johnson, Alan Benson. Good morning, Harry. Thank you for calling me a superstar. Kimberly Denise Moore, thank you for tuning in. Share this. We're going to get started. Vinny, how was your birthday weekend?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Miss White. It was wonderful. I'm still sleepy.
You still sleep? That's because you old, man. What'd you do?
Well, just had a good time with family and friends in Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama. Hey, yeah. Do you know the people on Love and Marriage Huntsville?
No.
You know, I'm been trying to get them on my show, especially Kimmy, talk about her cancer journey. So Huntsville,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huntsville, Alabama. Did you get all the gifts that you've been wanting?
Well, except one, and that's that fruit smoothie machine that I always want.
Somebody get Vinny the fruit smoothie machine, please.
Grapes down in there, some strawberries and apples and stuff. Make my own.
Somebody listen, we're going to put it out in the airways for Vinny. Somebody bless Vinny with the fruit smoothie machine. You know, my mind goes and comes, and I don't get to remember a whole lot of certain things. Vinny, we're going to pray that you get exactly what you want. Is that our guest calling?
Can you just go out and get it real quick and come back and
see? Vinny think that I have a job. I am self-employed. Vinny makes all the money behind the LLV producer's chair. So, Vinny, you can give me the money and I'll go get it and wrap it up for you.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
So, Vinny, is that our caller calling?
Yes.
So we're going to have Dr. Melanie. She's great, and I want her to come on here and tell us who she is. I usually try to read people's bios, but we can't give ourselves justice unless we read it ourselves. So welcome to the Real Talk with Tanya White show, Dr. Melanie Battles. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. Where are you calling from, Dr. Melanie?
I am in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Listen, Little Rock, Arkansas. We have a lot of people in Little Rock, Arkansas. Alan Stewart, okay. You from, well, really not Little Rock. He's from Blythesville. Is that close to Little Rock?
It's not. It's about an hour and a half, but my sister-in-law is from Blythesville. So we know about Blythesville.
Yes, Alan Stewart. We got Dr. Melanie on this. Your people's on here. So, Dr. Melanie, thank you so much for answering the call. And then this topic you were going to talk about. Last week we had Dr. Steve Perry on. I wish we would have had you on that show.
Oh,
man, yeah. I love him too, but you can listen to the full interview today on the Go Get It podcast. I email you. But we're going to continue this talk about education. Give us your background.
So I am the CEO and lead consultant of Scholars for the Soul, an educational solutions firm. We partner with schools and districts to help teachers build culturally responsive lesson plans. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, so I graduated from Little Rock Central High. Since we're in Black History Month, I had to shout that out for the 1957 integration of the Little Rock.
Come on.
And I went to the University of Memphis, got my bachelor's there, got a master's degree in teaching, and also a graduate certificate in African American literature. And my PhD is in reading education from UA Little Rock. And I've been teaching in education for more than 15 years. I have 2 children. I'm married. I am a very active member in my church. I'm a PK. My dad just retired. We just got a pastor, and we work with the kids and things there. We just had our Black History Month program on Sunday. So we've had a good time. So that is a little bit about who I
am. Okay. Vinny's giving me thing. I know Vinny. Well, I didn't give you the whole 30 minutes. I interviewed him for 30 minutes, though. I gave you a slither of it. Dr. Melanie, I'm sorry, my producer. He know I can't do 2 things at once. But you homegrown, Little Rock, Arkansas. You have stayed in there for 15 years. Y'all, she only looks about 30, so you must have started when you was 10 in education.
I'm 38. But I'll take that. I'll take the compliment. I ain't mad at it.
So you knew exactly what you wanted to do right out of high school, go into education, right?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Oh.
That is the difference between me and a lot of teachers. I did not have aspirations to go into the teaching field, but when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I was looking for work, and teaching just fell in my lap, and I started it in Memphis and fell in love with teaching, and I haven't left.
It's a calling. It is. That's how I started. My daddy told me, graduate, you need to be a teacher. And I was like, nope. I'm going to be a corporate trainer. Nope. I'm going to wear my cute suits and I'm going to be a trainer. And look, teaching called me to the profession.
It'll do
it. And I love it. So I love that you are now focused on helping the districts with, about culturally responsive teaching, because it is so imperative. Why did you choose to focus on culturally responsive teaching and empower other teachers with the information?
So as I've been working in education and seeing the results, especially with our Black children, and even our Latinx children, I'm noticing and have been noticing the disparities of how our children are treated, how they are taught, how they are oftentimes passed along grade by grade without the right skills and without the knowledge they need to go on and be successful. And so for me, in the last couple of years while I was in the district, I was an instructional coach.
Okay.
So doing that, working with teachers, I really saw the gap. The gap is where our teachers are not experiencing a high level of self-efficacy. So what I mean by self-efficacy is the belief in your own ability to do a thing. And so in my dissertation, our focus was on building cultural self-efficacy. So how do we empower teachers with the right tools to be able to reach and see results with all of our children, especially our Black children, who tend to be higher in numbers amongst those who are not at reading level, not at math level, higher numbers in disciplinary infractions.
Oh my God.
All of that. So we're higher there, but our numbers are lower in enrollment in terms of how many kids are actually in the school. So the numbers don't match, but they're telling a picture that something is missing. And what I found is that the gap is in our instructional equity. So how we're building our lesson plans so that we are tapping into our students' cultural funds of knowledge. Because we don't want to think, in teacher prep programs, they teach you about this term called tabula rasa, meaning students come in as a blank slate, but they don't.
They don't.
Students come in with great values, great funds of knowledge that come from the way they've been raised. If they go to church, the things they've been learning there, the ways they've been making meaning in their community. So we look at how do we use that plus brain science. How does the brain actually learn and process information? And when you put those two together, you can build a lesson plan where students are going to be motivated, engaged, and they're going to show their intellectual strength because the lessons are going to call them in with love to reach their soul before I try to teach their mind.
Lord have mercy. Dr. Melanie, I'm trying to be still, but you are speaking my language because I came into teaching as a special education teacher. And you talking about the numbers not matching. Yes. You talking about the percentage of African American people enrolled, students enrolled in the school, but they were higher in the special education classes. I was like, what is going on? And I was educated in Catholic private school, but I was fortunate from grades 1 through 8 to be at an all black Catholic private school, which is different. And so you talking about everybody knowing everybody, not only having that structure and the religious, aspect behind it, but at that time, growing up in the 70s and 80s, when my parents were involved, I was not that kid that had to be called. For one, my parents were paying and we just didn't do that. But if they had a problem and they couldn't get the parents, because everybody worked, honey, they knew where you lived. That's when the old school with teachers and principals used to come to your house and say, I need to talk to you. So I love what you're saying, that students, they teach us that students come in with a blank slate. They do not. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of experiences. They have a lot of knowledge. It may not be the theory knowledge that we are trying to teach them, but as a special education teacher, one thing I did was listen to my students. And then I tried to integrate, okay, you know this. Let me apply this, what you learning at home and in the hood about loyalty, about consistency, how you can apply that to the classroom and getting what you need. So, girl, I'm literally, Dr. Melanie, if you will see me, I'm sitting here squirming in my chair as you talking, because you are talking good stuff. Yes, we're going to keep praying, DeJuan Wright, yes. I'm talking to some of my Facebook Live members who are educators. Okay, so Dr. Melanie, as you are teaching the teacher on culturally responsive teacher, give me some barriers that you face.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because when you talk about listening, that's one of the things that I lead with when we talk about listening for liberation. Because we have to stop and think, why are we even teaching our children? What are we teaching them, and what do we see the purpose as? And schools have been pushed because of standardized testing, because money connects to test scores, and capitalism and all of these things. They've been teaching that we're just supposed to get students in and teach them skills. But through culturally responsive teaching, we're teaching the whole child. But to teach the whole child, the educator, the adult, has to do what I call soul work. Yes. So when you're talking about doing soul work, you are identifying what your biases are, your prejudices, your assumptions, covering those blind spots to see who you are, teach your identity, how you show up in front of your children, because they're making meaning all the time. I was just talking about this yesterday with my mom. We were talking about how we think that meaning making starts when you open a textbook, but they're making meaning on how you engage with them, what you think of them, how you value them. If you believe that they are capable, they're making meaning of your body movements, your gestures, how engaged you are with them. They're always making meaning. So when I work with teachers, it's one thing, and I get some pushback, because I've been into some audiences where we have our white counterparts in the audience, and they don't believe this work is necessary to education. And we're hearing, I'm in Arkansas, so if anybody knows, we have Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is the same lady who gave the Republican response to the State of the Union address. And if you heard that response, then you know we're in trouble here. Yes. She's just passing a law. It went through the Senate, I think it's going through the House now, where it's called the Learns Act. And in that law, she is putting forth this carrot stick that we're going to raise teacher pay. But also in the same bill, there can be no indoctrination, no CRT. Those are specific words she's put on the poster flyer for this bill, because there is a belief that when we are teaching the cultural truth of what our country has been through,
yes,
that we are trying to indoctrinate our children, because some people, meaning white folks who are not ready to face the truth, will be uncomfortable while we allow our children to continue to be uncomfortable, to continue to not have their needs met,
yes,
to continue to be shamed, humiliated, for their histories to be rewritten. We're facing a large sense of erasure and revisionary history, where people are coming in and saying that our enslaved ancestors chose to come here, they were immigrants. I've seen it in textbooks that are out right now. And these things are an attack on education, but more so an attack on Black people and their families. So I always urge parents to look in the textbooks, to look at the papers that are being sent home, to ask your children about what they're being taught. Because if you have your kids in a school system where the history is being rewritten, not from the perspective of Black people, but from the perspective of whiteness, then we're in trouble. And as parents, we got to know what the real history is, because in anything, I know this is a gospel show, and so I can say this freely. When God talked about the Israelites, He always implored upon them to teach the future generations about where I brought you from, because our history is important to who we are in our present and who we aspire to be in our future. So we've got to know that the truth of history must be told in our schools. But when I'm in there, I'm faced with a lot of these biases that teachers have to look at and unpack to understand how you need to show up in front of your kids before you can even connect to our students, and especially our Black and brown students.
Dr. Melanie, somebody need to pass the plate. Vinny, get the offering plate, cause she is talking for real. Darwin White said desegregation is doing what they intended. Yes, and I write that in my upcoming book, DeWine Wright, Professionally Lynched. It is strategic, it is subtle, and what you're talking about, Dr. Melanie, is that it's rewritten. We need to stay woke. We need to stop going to sleep, and letting stuff pass. Lord have mercy.
Right.
Let's just take a pause and give our audience your contact information, because they got to stay connected with you. If this is happening in Arkansas and it's happening in Kentucky, it's happening all over the United States. And so give us your contact information, Dr. Melanie Battles.
Sure. You can reach me at info@scholarsforthesoul.com. My website is scholarsforthesoul.com. I'm on Instagram at Scholars for the Soul. The 4 will be the number 4. So Scholars, number 4, the Soul. You can also find me on Facebook at Scholars, number 4, the Soul. But my email is info@scholarsforthesoul, spelling it all out, .com.
Dr. Melanie, we got a question on my Facebook Live. It says, how do you teach successfully in fear? And that's what that's what is really happening. To teachers, the fear-based instruction, fear-based of losing their job, fear-based of everything. You talk about also wanted to talk about the fear tactics, and that's a good transition, Derwin White. The fear tactics of critical race theory. Talk about that.
Yeah, so if we're operating, number one, we know that God is love, and everything that He did from a space of love. But what the enemy did, even in Genesis, is he planted seeds of doubt,
Come on now,
seeds of fear, to make the woman believe that she was missing out on something.
Come on
that
now.
She wasn't getting the fullness of what God had, and that ultimately God was telling her a lie. So what we've got to remember is that when we're operating in the opposite of love, because the opposite of love is not hate, it's actually fear. When we're operating in the opposite of love, we can't truly reach our children, because they won't see themselves in the textbook. They won't see themselves in the curriculum. They won't see themselves as the intellectual contributors that we want them to be. Doretta Hammond talks about a lot in culturally responsive teaching and the brain, she talks about how we have to build academic mindset. And one of the biggest components to me in that building that she mentions is students have to believe that I belong to this academic community.
Yes.
A lot of our Black kids are taught that they belong to the athletic community. They belong to the club community where they can be social in school, but they don't see themselves as belonging to the academic and intellectual community. So when we're operating in fear, that means we're not giving them the fullness of our teaching, and we're limiting their genius to shine. So we have to be bold enough. I'm dealing with things right now in a neighboring school district where I went up last week to speak at the board meeting to the superintendent to let them know, I know you want to ignore these things that are happening that are racist and that are connected to violence for our Black students, but these are the things that are happening in our schools. So I have some parents that are afraid to come forward and tell how their students have been racially treated and marginalized in this district. But I have to let parents and families know that your baby's life depends on you standing up,
absolutely,
and speaking and being bold and not operating in fear and lack that God won't protect you. You got to be like Hannah. She said, "Come on, you are the Lord of hosts.
Come on, girl.
You are the one who will fight for me. You are my general. You are the sergeant of the army of all the and all the earth." So when you believe that, you don't operate in fear. You know what God is doing.
Lord,
you know that God is going to protect you and provide for you when you speak up for justice. So we got to be like those old school Old Testament prophets. We got to be afraid. We got to speak when God tells us to speak and know that He's got our back.
Dr. Melanie, I'm about to run to Arkansas this week so I can meet you face to face. You are talking real good. And I want to go back to the statement you made. I know our time is out, but you said, how can our children really be successful if they don't feel like they belong, if they don't feel like, or they belong to only certain groups? And I want to expand that because it's in my book, Professionally Lynched, that's coming out. How can our African-American teachers do the same if they don't feel like they belong? If when they get to the decision-making table, they are attacked, they are targeted for being the advocates and advocating for the parents and informing the parents of their rights and empowering them to speak up. Then you become a target and you get what? Professionally Lynched, that's coming out June 6th. Dr. Melanie, Lord have mercy. I got to get you on Go Get It with Tanya White because we got to talk for about an hour, okay, about this, because you are on fire. You just came out the gate and said, look, this is what I got to say. This is what I'm teaching. Again, thank you so much for everything you do. Keep speaking, keep teaching, and keep standing up regardless of the barriers. We are going to follow up. We got comments in the Facebook Lab. I know Durban, right, and he said, and before you leave, he said, when history was written concerning Black males and men and students were not in the plan. We've got to rewrite our own history in public education. Lord have mercy. Yes, thank you, Dr. Melanie. We're going to follow up with you. You have a great day in Arkansas, okay?
All right, you all too. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. If you just tuned in, Real Talk with Tanya White just started off real good. I love this featured guest pop-up. And we got another doctor on the line, don't we, Vinny? Dr. Ashley, we're going to switch from education. We're going to switch to how to create six-figure career brand or land your job of six figures. So welcome to the Real Talk with Tanya White show. Dr. Ashley Dash, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, gorgeous. And you sent me your photo, your headshot. I said, look at this gorgeous melanin girl popping. Dr. Ashley Dash. Where are you calling from?
Currently, I'm in Maryland.
Maryland? Okay. How's the weather up there? Is it cold like it is here?
It is a little chilly, I have to be honest. The weather don't know what it wants to do.
It's bipolar up in here, too. All right. Can't hear her very well. Vinny, give us some more volume. Thank you, Durbin. All right. So, Ashley Dash, I know you get this all the time. Are you kin to Stacy?
I am not. I am my own dad.
Okay, because I was going to help a sister out. I was going to, help her out. All right, Miss Dash, give us a little background on how you can teach us the 4 steps of creating a six-figure career brand. What's your background?
for my background, so I have a doctorate in strategic leadership, and I've been jumping all over the world in terms of my job. So I actually started my career as an unemployed college graduate.
Okay.
I started, and from there, I've just been moving and learning, and God has just been so good to show me the steps and put people in my life to really mold and shape my career, where I've been able to make six figures on multiple occasions, and now I'm here to teach others how to do the same.
So before we get into you making the six figures, when you was an unemployed college graduate, many of us start out that way.
Yes.
What was you telling yourself? Like, cause that's like, I didn't spend all these years getting my degree. They said, once you graduate from college, you're sure to have a job. What was you thinking at that time?
To be honest, there's a lot of emotions that I felt, and the ones that I talk about the most, because a lot of people feel but don't share, is I felt shame. There was a lot of shame and guilt. I felt like I had not only disappointed myself, but disappointed everyone around me. My mom, I was raised in a single parent environment. She had sacrificed and spent money, and we had to find internships and do a lot of things. And all my church members, they were always, how are your grades doing? How are you doing at school? They were always asking me questions. So when I did everything I was supposed to and still didn't get a job, there was a lot of shame there. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Talk about things when things go wrong, but we don't talk about when you do everything right and it still doesn't work. Then what do you do?
Then what do you do? Dr. Ashley Dash, that's a good point right there, because we don't talk about shame, because we're thinking, I'm doing this. I got point A, I got point B, I got everything on my checklist, and it just ain't, the numbers just not adding up. And life is not lifing the way I thought it was going to be. And so you have to get over that emotional barrier and say, you know what? Like, we started off the show playing Mary J. I'm just fine. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to live my life and get into the groove. And so I believe that's what you did, because you said in order to, create six figures, you have to get out there and hustle, correct?
You do and you don't. So
okay, do and you don't. I like it.
So the first time I made six figures, it was more of a hustle. I feel like it took 7 years, right? From my first job to my job working at Mercedes-Benz in Silicon Valley to make six figures, right?
Right.
But as you said, life sometimes it be lifing, right?
Right.
So life happens again. I was actually unemployed again, but this time facing foreclosure. Okay. And I just kind of had a conversation with God. I said, hey, what's going on? Like, we've been here before. What's happening? And the second time, it took 7 months for me to make six figures from unemployment, from 0 to 6 figures. I actually moved internationally overseas to Japan.
Wow. That number 7, that's my life number. And so I heard you said first time it took 7 years, the second time it took 7 months. God was showing you, girl, I got you, Dr. Ashley. Just stay with me and do what you've always done. So what are some of these steps of creating a 6-figure career brand?
Yeah, so there's 4 steps. And it's easy to remember, Dash, right? But that's the acronym for it. So the first thing you have to do is you have to design what you actually want, right? A lot of people start with the job market, and I tell people to do the opposite. Sit down and write down what you really want. And I do this straight from out the Bible, like Habakkuk 2:2, right? Write the vision.
Yes.
Write down what you want, how much money you want to make, what the job title is, how often you want to work, where you want to work. Or write your own job description. And even if it doesn't exist currently, right, you can still create it. So the first step is to write it down.
Write it down. Design what you want. And that is like a growth mindset, because we have been programmed to do the opposite. Write down what's out there and align it to and align what you want with what's out there. But you're saying go the opposite route. Design what you really want. Because when you write it down, write the vision, make it plain, pray, and do what God tells you to do, it shall manifest. It shall manifest. So design what you want is the first step, you guys. Design what you want. Go ahead, Miss Dr. Dash.
The second step is to assess. right? So after you know what you want, then it's time to go to the marketplace. Then it's time to go to your network, right? And that's when you can talk about looking at job markets, seeing what's available, seeing what does or does not exist, because that helps you create your game plan. So if the job is there or you find it online, great. Then you can start applying, start networking, have those conversations. If it's not, then we have to do a separate plan. We have to do a different action plan, right?
Right.
The second step is really to assess. You have to see what's going on once you know what you want.
Now, Dr. Dash, do you not only assess the job market, but do you have to assess yourself too to see, okay, because you said, it took 7 years. 7 years, we change, we gain skills, and we have to adjust. So do you have to assess yourself as well?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
This is just looking at the landscape in the job market. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because that leads us to the next step, which is shift.
Shift.
Right?
Yes.
You have to shift to 6 figures. And in that step, that is what you're referring to. You're talking about shifting your mindset, shifting what you learned about yourself, the stories you told yourself, right?
Oh, Dr. Dash, them stories you tell yourself, especially when you're dealing with shame and you're unemployed, that we can conject and create a lot of false narratives. And so I love what you said. Shift your thinking, shift those stories, get them out of your mindset. Love that, Dr. Dash. So when you shift it, are you shifting some of your intake, like things that you watch and people that you listen to? How does the shift happen?
So lots of ways to shift. So it does shift your mindset. So I started listening to a lot of positive podcasts.
Yes.
Because I wasn't in a positive place. So I didn't have the joy. I didn't have the excitement, right? So
Right.
I had to shift it from somewhere else.
You have to shift. Oh, Dr. Dash?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the H? I love the way you do your acronym under your name. So people going to remember your name. Dr. Dash. Got the 4 dash steps. So D was design what you want. A, assess. Do an assessment. S, shift. What is the H?
A is actually heal.
Mm.
You have to heal from a lot of things. I refer to healing work hurt. That's what I call it. Many people are familiar with church hurt.
Yes.
And not many people actually address work hurt.
Well, I'm addressing it, Dr. Dash, in an upcoming book called Professionally Lynched. This coming out June 6th. Because a lot of people do not, you talking about that shame, we don't talk about the work hurt, the work trauma that goes on. And we spend most of our life at work, especially if you're in corporate America or you pursuing your career. And there's a lot of hidden hurt that people tell us to get over and don't talk about. So that is real. Work hurt, trauma in the workplace.
Exactly. And that's just not people. A lot of times people instantly think of a person, a boss, a toxic coworker.
It's a system.
Sometimes it's ourselves. Like we have to forgive ourselves for decisions that we made that maybe didn't work out the best, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's the economy. Like I said, when I was an unemployed college graduate, it was right before the Great Recession of 2010, right? So it wasn't really like I did anything wrong or people weren't hiring or it wasn't anything like that. It was just a sign of the time, right?
Yes.
So I just happened to graduate at that time. I'm kind of similar to what's happening now in the marketplace. So, a lot of recessions, a lot of layoffs in that space. So I'm not as nervous for people because I've seen this before. I can help them.
Absolutely. And one thing that the pandemic has allowed people to shift their thinking, especially when they've experienced work hurt. They've gotten a lot of more courage to say, you know what? I can finally launch my own business. I can step out and do this, or I can finally leave this company and go pursue another opportunity in another company. So I think that a lot of what's happening in the pandemic has given a lot of people courage to do that. And so, like you said, a lot of people are not as nervous this time around. Dr. Ashley, our time is winding up, and I got to get you on Go Get It because we need to delve deeper. In closing, what would you leave our audience with? You're trying to create a six-figure career brand or land your dream job. What you want to, what do you, go ahead.
So I would really just encourage people to take action, right? And sometimes the action is to press the apply button, on the job they're working on. Sometimes taking action is going in prayer. Sometimes it's fasting. But I think the most important thing is for you to take the next step. Like taking that step is so scary, and I tell people it's just information. As we're moving through life, this is just information we can use to move forward to be successful. So take the next step.
Take the next step. Click the button. They're either going to say yes or no, but you'll never know unless you click that button. Right, Dr. Dash?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for calling in to Mary. We're going to follow up. We got to dig deeper in there. So we're going to schedule for a Go Get It interview that's longer than this. But we love what you said. Give us your contact information so people can stay connected with you.
Definitely. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Ashley Dash. That's DASH, not the symbol, it's actually the word. And also, if people want some help right now, they can go to profitableresume.com/guide. And that gives them a step-by-step guide to help them through the recession if that's causing some issues in their professional life right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, gorgeous. We'll follow up with you later.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Listen, I love this Real Talk pop-up. What about you, Vinny? We talking about different topics, and we're going to close it out. I feel the anointment going to come on by Apostle Michelle Allen. She's going to tell us how to recover and come up swinging after trauma, like Muhammad Ali. We're going to do it, boom, boom, boom. Apostle Michelle, welcome to Real Talk with Tanya White. How are you?
Oh, I am well and so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, I've been feeling a rumbling in my belly since you sent me your topic, how to come up swinging after trauma.
Amen. Amen.
Where are you calling from, Apostle Michelle?
I am in the big city of Norlina, North Carolina.
Norlina.
And that's not a big city at all.
But it's a big city because you are in there. Apostle Michelle, briefly give us a bio of who you are, because then you got to tell us how to recover and come up swinging after trauma.
Amen. Amen. I'm Apostle Michelle Allen. I'm the CEO and founder of Women of Great Purpose International Ministries, which is focused on educating, empowering, igniting, and activating women to walk in their purpose, their power, and prosperity. But I'm also the CEO and founder of Power Up Global, which our model is motivation for life transformation. And so I'm all about transforming lives and helping women to transform their life so that they can be who they've been called to be.
Amen.
I have two children. They are both grown.
Amen.
But I'm also a widow. Just recently in 2020, my husband went home to be with the Lord due to COVID-19. And so I know a little bit about recovering and coming up swinging after trauma.
Listen, we listen. I can already feel I'm gonna have an in-depth conversation with you, so you know how to recover, and it's an ongoing thing as well. It's not a one and done. And so tell us what your definition of trauma.
Well, my definition of trauma is anything that causes you to be unrecognizable to yourself, that causes you mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial pain. And so that could be something that happened in your childhood. It could be a way of thinking. It could be just, a mindset that does not allow you to move forward from the pain of your past.
Amen. That's a great definition. Now, what does trauma, when we experience that, you gave us a great definition. What does that look like in our life, in our daily actions, our response to it?
Well, Tanya, I believe that trauma is one of the leading causes of why we are paralyzed in cycles and in lifestyles that are broken. And we never really achieve our purpose, our power, or our destiny. And I believe trauma shows itself in many different forms. It comes out in your emotional health, through depression. It comes out through your mental health, through the way that you think, anger, bitterness,
Yes.
the way you see things. It comes out in your physical body as well. There can be trauma that happens in your body because of emotional and mental effects that have happened. And it can come out in swelling. It can come out in irregular heartbeat. It can come out in lung problems. So it can show itself in many different forms, but it can also come out financially and socially in your life as well. Not being able to have fulfilling relationships,
Yes.
not really making it to where you're aspiring to go in life as far as a career, a business, or, or just knowing your purpose. Because trauma has a way of fragmenting our soul when it's left unchecked. When we don't deal with our trauma, we become another person. We're not the person that we have been called or created to be. We begin to shrink down into this person that feels like there is no hope, that they don't have a purpose, they don't know how to get out of this state of confusion because of that trauma.
Hey man, I feel it. I feel the anointment on you, Apostle Michelle. You are talking truth. And when we are traumatized, sometimes we don't even know that we're living in trauma until we know that we're living in trauma, and we wake up and say, "This is not me. I got to do something." And so, what should we do to recover? Not just recover, but come up swinging, like you said, after trauma.
Well, Tanya, I truly believe that this is the season for the her inside of every woman to arise in purpose, power, and prosperity. I believe there's greatness in every woman, and I don't know who's listening to this today, but I believe there is greatness in you, and so stagnation cannot be your portion in this hour, because it is the time for you to fuel your move. And the way that we're going to fuel that move is we got to be able to, number one, deal with who we are, and that means we got to learn ourselves. Whatever is in me that or happened to me or that has caused me to make the same bad choices over and over again, whether it's in relationships, whether it's with our finances, whatever the case may be, and B, what have helped me or keeps me perpetuating the same cycles over and over again. You feel like you get one step forward and then you're not 5 steps back, because there is something that is hidden on the inside of you that won't let you believe that you are great. And see, the thing that keeps you from healing and moving forward. What is that? So you got to learn yourself. And the number 2 thing is you got to be willing to face yourself and face your trauma. And that's the problem with a lot of us, because sometimes we know that there's trauma, we see and we're triggered by different things and it comes out, but we refuse to dig deep enough to find out what it is. Because trauma, whatever it is, it doesn't just affect us internally, like I said earlier, but it affects us physically, it affects us socially, and it affects us economically. We never really aspire to do the great things that we are capable of doing, because that trauma will always tell us you can't accomplish that. You're not able to do that. You don't have the intelligence, the intellect to even come up out of where you are. So you can't have that. But that is a lie. It's a lie. And we got to believe that there is greatness in me, because a great God created us.
Yes.
And because He created us, He's given us power to obtain wealth. And everything that we need in order to live this life and godliness, He said, it is ours. All we have to do is ask. And the last thing is the most important thing that I heard Dr. Dash say as well, is we have to forgive.
Yes.
Forgiveness is the key to unlocking the cycles of bad decisions, negative views of ourselves, and negative views of our life. Trauma causes us to see things and ourselves or our money or our lives from a distorted point of view because of our pain. Easy as it sounds, forgiveness is difficult. In order to to walk in your purpose and to produce your best and most powerful self, you must be willing to break covenant with the person, the event, the time, the place, and the pain that you are carrying and that you've been carrying. And B, listen, you gotta stop blaming and shaming yourself.
Stop blaming and shaming yourself.
Yourself. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes, but we live and learn from them, and that's the thing.
Yes.
What happened to you, what you did, the decision that you made, it did not kill you. You survived it. Come on.
Yes,
now
Lord.
It's time for you to thrive. Come on. It's time for us to thrive. And we have to stop allowing this trauma to hold us back and hold us hostage.
Lord, have mercy.
I want to say, Tanya, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself.
Honey, you just on the road. That's why we got to do a deeper dive.
The third thing is we got to grow so you can go.
Grow so you can
Grow so you can go.
Grow so you can go.
The trauma, like you said, it's not a one and done. It is a process. After you continue to go through that process, you got to start re-educating yourself on you.
Yes.
Come on. When my husband passed, and my daughter, my youngest child, when she left home because she was graduating high school, she was going to college, and she no longer wanted to live in California. When she left home and came back to the East Coast, I was home alone. And I had to figure out who I was, right? Outside of being first lady, outside of being co-pastor, outside of being the title that I held of mother and wife, because no longer did I have to take care of a small child. No longer did I have to cook meals for my husband every day and be a wife to him because he was no longer with me. So I had to learn me all over again. I had to understand who I was, what was passionate inside of me. Because truth be told, sometimes we put our hopes and our dreams, our aspirations, and our passions on hold to help build up the vision of our spouses. And so now it was time for me to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. I had to learn what I was passionate about, what my purpose was individually, as a woman. And then I had to, re-educate myself by taking some classes or coming up under somebody's mentorship so that I can become great at what it was that I was passionate about. And then I had to learn how to share my story.
Share your story. Right? And that's how you come up swinging and recover. Apostle Michelle, we're going to have to get you on Go Get It where we got a whole hour. Give us quickly in 5 seconds. How can people stay connected to you?
You can reach me on Instagram at Allen Apostle, on Facebook at Michelle Hawkins Allen or Power Up Global. You can reach me there, or you can go to my website at www.michelleallenspeaks.com.
Listen, Apostle Michelle, I told you I felt the anointment. I'm going to follow up with you. Have a great day. We got like 30 seconds before the show is up. That's how we come up swinging, you guys, after trauma. Bless you, Apostle Michelle. Hey, Real Talk with Tanya White. This was a great featured guest pop-up. I think we're going to have another one in March because 3 different topics, 3 different powerful speakers. Vinny, that was awesome, wasn't it? Listen, remember what Mary J said. We're going to be just fine. When you design what you want, when you heal from the hurt that's been causing you, and then, like Dr. Melanie said, you got to speak up for those, your children, and those in the education system. I love you guys. Next week, we got Jackie Floyd, Attica Scott, and Shamika Wright. We're going to kick off Women's Month right. So tune in. Share this. Bye-bye. Thank y'all. I love you guys.